In tonight's headlines, China hits growth target last year, but population declines for the second consecutive year. Financial Secretary Paul Chan says there are no plans to impose a capital gains tax in the near future. And the Housing Authority says it has evicted 2,100 households found to have breached tenancy rules.
China's economy was a mixed bag last year. The National Bureau of Statistics revealed that gross domestic product grew by 5.2% year-on-year. The increment surpassed the official target of 5%, but missed market expectations of 5.3%. The performance was partly helped by a low base of comparison in 2022, when the economy only improved by 3%, the slowest in almost half a century. Officials are sticking to the same growth target of 5% for 2024. They also praised the resilience of the world's second-largest economy.
世界经济是低迷，国际格局呢在复杂演。
Last year, the global economy remained sluggish. There have been complex changes in the international landscape and frequent geopolitical conflicts. The external environment is getting more complex and uncertain. There have been frequent natural disasters and cyclical and structural problems at home. This makes the achievements we made ever more valuable and precious.
What Kang didn't mention was that investment into real estate fell 9.6% in 2023, after the sector, which makes up 1/5 of the economy, tumbled amid a crackdown on bad debt. But increased investment into infrastructure and manufacturing meant overall fixed asset investment rose by 3%. Retail sales continued to improve last month, expanding 7.4% year-on-year. Still, the pace of growth tapered off for the third consecutive month and was the slowest since September. Already overtaken by India as the world's most populous country, China has lost more ground on that front. It now has 1.41 billion people after a net drop of 2.08 million last year, more than double the downturn in 2022. Births plummeted to a record low of 9.02 million. Authorities are also once again publishing the youth unemployment rate. Around 1 in 7, or 14.9% of those between 16 and 24 are now out of a job. That is down from the height of 21.3% last June, after which the Bureau stopped publishing the figures, saying the methodology needed improving. The survey now excludes full-time students after the tweak. Janice Low, Cable News. In a bid to stem out speculation, Paul Chan said there are no plans to roll out a capital gains tax. The financial chief caused a stir on an RTHK program earlier this month, after saying studies were underway to explore new revenue channels, including a capital gains levy. But in an interview with Singtown newspaper, he conceded the SAR does not have the requisite conditions to introduce such a tax in the short term. Authorities will consider the impact on the city's competitiveness and economic development before rolling out any taxes. The idea was met with fierce opposition among lawmakers and business chambers. Investment bank JP Morgan also warned the imposition of a capital gains tax could trigger panic selling in the property market.
The 11th day of Jimmy Lai's national security trial saw the prosecution summon its first witness. Chen Kim-hong, the former chief executive of Nix Digital, which owned Apple Daily, appeared at West Kowloon Magistracy as an accomplice witness. The 62-year-old and several senior executives of the media firm were arrested in June 2021 on suspicion of conspiring to collude with foreign forces. They have been remanded ever since. Chen confirmed that he began working for Lai in 1991 when he was hired as an editor for Nix magazine. He described the tycoon as the company's ultimate decision maker, While as chief executive, he was responsible for executing instructions from Lai and the board. Asked if Lai had changed the newspaper's editorial policy since the social unrest in 2019, Zheng agreed. He said Lai had ordered the management to use Apple Daily as a medium to urge people to protest on the streets and exert pressure on the government. Lai hoped Western democracies would pay attention to the demonstrations in Hong Kong or even provide assistance by imposing sanctions. Zheng also told the court that Lai had become actively involved in Apple Daily's editorial decisions since the Occupy protests in 2014. Describing it as a watershed moment, Zheng said the paper evolved from a tabloid to an anti-government publication. Lai would also publish op-eds on Apple Daily every Sunday, and the articles were usually critical of Beijing and the SAR government. The trial resumes tomorrow. Maisie Mock, Cable News.
Currently, people who wish to apply for public housing are told to wait for an average of 5.5 years. But some existing tenants are found to be subletting their units, even posting ads on social media and rental platforms. The housing authority said it is doing everything it can to combat tenancy abuse. In an interview with Thai Kong newspaper, Housing Director Rosanna Law said authorities have evicted 2,100 households between April and December last year. The number was already close to the total for the 2022-23 fiscal year. Starting last October, tenants are required to declare their assets every 2 years, compared to every decade previously. Law said more than 200 households voluntarily gave up their units after they were told to declare their assets. Of 87,000 tenants who returned declaration forms, 30,000 were randomly selected for audit. 46 households were found to own residential properties in Hong Kong and now face eviction or prosecution. Going forward, authorities will broaden their investigation to tenants holding properties on the mainland or overseas. Law also confirmed more measures could be rolled out in the first quarter of this year, such as a program which encourages tenants to tip off authorities on vacant or misused units. Property management firms which successfully detect offenders will also be given priority when renewing their service contracts. Janice Yu, Cable News. "18 months after a shocking accident during a pop concert of local boy band Mira, a magistrate has handed down a stiff penalty for the firm responsible for constructing the stage at Hong Kong Coliseum. Hip Hing Long Stage Engineering Company has been fined $420,000 at Kowloon City Magistracy today, having earlier pleaded guilty to 6 counts of occupational safety violations. The concerts were called off after 2 dancers were struck by a display panel that fell from height. It came 3 days after another dancer fell off the stage into a void and suffered minor injuries. The Labor Department said the judgment sent a strong message that duty holders must protect the safety and health of employees.
Sluggish economic figures from Chinese policymakers sent shockwaves across the Hong Kong market. The Hang Seng Index went into a free fall, shedding 671 points at one point. It recovered nominally to close 589 points down, losing 3.7%. It was the steepest one-day decline in 15 months. Losses were registered across the board, with tech, property and insurance shares hit hard. The stagnant real estate sector in Hong Kong prompted Swire Properties to lose 5.2%. Henderson Land fared marginally better, dropping 5%. E-commerce platforms recorded new one-year lows, with JD.com down 6% and Alibaba 4%. Insurance giant Ping An, which has invested massively in mainland properties, tanked 5.5%. Electric car makers Xpeng and NIO both lost nearly 10% after Citibank researchers said electric vehicle sales on the mainland are slowing at a faster pace than earlier predictions.